Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So our old friend Mike has struck again, and I've got some more donations from him that we're going to put together today, and we're going to build a small pedal board. This is probably GhostFire's smallest pedal board, and it comes with this nice case here, but it's just big enough to hold 5 of these mini pedals, and that's what we're going to put on it, and hopefully we're going to give it away to some up-and-coming guitar player, along with that Ibanez gem that I just built. So just a quick look at some of the parts that I have here today. I have an assortment of pedals ranging from a tuner to a noise gate to a distortion pedal to a phaser and finally a delay. I've got a set of cables that we're going to use. These are patch cables. I also have power cables. I have the power adapter. I have some Velcro, and I hope that's pretty much all we need. I may use a couple of zip ties as well. Now, the subject of pedal order is widely debated, and in fact the entire subject of pedal boards is up to crazy amounts of debate. In a lot of my research, I've discovered that tuner pedals are almost always first in everyone's chain. The noise pedal is somewhat of a debate. I'm going to locate it right after the tuner because I'm hoping to get a clean signal going into each one of my pedals, but I have read that some people like to put this after a drive pedal. Next up is this distortion pedal, followed by a phaser pedal. These could technically be swapped, and even the delay pedal could come before either one of these, but most of the sources that I find recommend locating the distortion pedal or a drive pedal before some of these other effects. And again, the order of these last two pedals can change as well, but I almost always see people putting the delay pedal last in the chain. Now there's obviously all kinds of pedals that you can have other than just these. There are compression pedals that I've seen that should also go early in the chain. There are other effects that should go in the middle or later. Reverb almost always goes last, but not universally. We're going to try this order out, and we're going to make it where anyone who wanted to could try mixing these things around later on by using hook and loop fastening on the board and on the pedals themselves. And before we start placing pedals, I think it's important to just say it's almost always input on the right, output on the left. So the chain is also right to left. Now, when it comes to hook and loop fastening or Velcro, there's also a debate about which side to put on the board and which side to put on the underside of the pedals. I saw an interesting poll online that showed that most people like to put the loop side down on the board and the hook side on the pedals themselves. And if you don't know, the loop side is usually the carpet or fuzzy side, and the hook side is the plasticky or the rough side. I'm using some bulk stuff that I got from Amazon, and I'll post the link to that in my description. This stuff is really wide, but you can cut it down into any size you need. So let's cut down a piece for this board, and again, I'm going to use the loop side for the board. Now, even though this stuff is pretty cheap and it's peel and stick, I want to go ahead and clean this board because it has been used before, and also just because I don't want any oils on here that might interfere with the adhesion. I'm going to use a shop towel and a little bit of naphtha to clean this off. You could also use denatured alcohol or something like that, but naphtha is kind of my go-to when I'm not sure what kind of paint might be on a surface. Alright, and once that's dry, we just peel and stick. And I was pretty close with my trimming, but I'm just going to clean this up a little bit with the razor blade. So now I'm just testing my pedal layout and seeing how far apart these pedals can get. Now I've got two types of cables. I've got this gold style, which is a Donner cable, and I've got this silver style, which is an MXR cable. They're both really nice, and I think if the MXR has one advantage, it's got a little bit of heat shrink tubing right under the connector, which gives it a little bit more of a solid feel, and the connector itself looks a little bit thicker. At any rate, with both of these cables, I've determined that I can put my pedals about 1 inch apart. I have to squeeze them together pretty tightly to do that, but that's going to allow all 5 pedals to fit on my board with a little bit of space left over at each end. It's not enough space to put another pedal, and I wouldn't want to do that anyway. What I'd like to do is leave a little bit of an overhang here before and after my chain, so when I plug a cable into these, there's a little bit of room for the cable to be protected if someone was to come up and kick this board. After some measurements, I've determined that I can place this pedal just on the inside of this support bracket here, or part of the frame, and the last pedal lands in exactly the same place. Also, I don't think I mentioned it before, but this tuner pedal is an Electro Harmonix. The noise killer is a Donner. The distortion is an AODSK. Phaser is also a Donner. And the delay is an AODSK. Most of these pedals I got for about 15 bucks on Amazon. All three of these were ones that I picked up as used finds on Amazon. These two were Mike's donations, and each one of them had a little bit of an issue. This one was a Donner and it needed a new jack installed because the jack had broken off the back. Luckily, those swap out quite easily. This Electro Harmonix pedal had a more significant issue. I actually had to short a connection inside with a wire because the PC board inside was failing. If I can, I'll post a picture of that repair so you can see exactly what I mean by a shorted connection with the wire. So let's go ahead and attach some of the hook fastener to each one of these pedals. And I'll start out with a scrap piece of the hook fastener material that I have here, and I'll trim it to fit the tuner pedal first. Now, just like on the board itself, this is a used pedal, so I'm definitely going to clean the adhesive off of here. Now, if you have any pedals that still have any labels or anything like that attached, you also have to take that stuff off before you can attach the hook and loop fasteners. Okay, that mounting is nice and secure, so I'm just going to do the rest of these pedals, and then I'll come back once all of these are mounted. Alright, so now I've got the hook fastener on the bottom of every one of these pedals, and I've started putting these patch cables in between them. And by the way, if you ever find that your patch cable's like rising up above the pedal, a good way to control that is by putting a zip tie around the base of each one of them, and that way it'll keep them all kind of lumped together and it reduces the chance that they'll rise up. So I just want to try to line each one of these up, stick it down, and they're all in place. Now the next thing to do is power each one of these, and I'm going to use this multi-pedal power cable. This particular one has 5 connections for pedals, so it's perfect for this. All these pedals are the same. They're all center negative and they're all 9 volt. So I can power them all off of one supply. And I'm just going to use a regular old brick for that. And this one just happens to be a brick that I found from some other appliance. And it's 9 volt and 1.6 amp. That's enough to run 5 pedals because each one of these draws about 300 milliamps a piece. The 1.6 is enough to power 5 of them. And the barrel connector is the right size for my one spot. Now one spot does make a cable and AC adapter combo. I'll link that in my description because that's a little bit easier to find than just the cable, and it helps you get the power brick at the same time. Now as I'm putting this together, I'm just going to zip tie it so that each one of the power cables stays tight to the pedal and there's not a lot of wire hanging off the back. You'll notice as I'm going through this, I'm trying to keep all my wire within the footprint of the pedal board, which isn't possible with these patch cables here unless I ran them under the board. At least with the setup I've got here, I could even run a pedal input and still stay within the footprint of the board here. So here's the complete package with the power installed. I zip tied the actual input connector right up here under the edge so I can plug right into this. But when it's unplugged, really everything's in a nice little tight package. I've got each one of the connectors bound up in between each plug, or basically the slack bound up in between each plug. Now I do think I might have a problem with this last pedal. All my lights are working except for this last one. So I'll do some testing on that. I hope this was useful to you. Like I said, look in the description for links to the parts in the episode. I'll also link to some articles that I found on pedal order because that's something that I hope can help you out. Once again, thanks for all the likes and the comments. Be sure to check out my description for the link to Hack's Guitar Hobby Facebook group because that's where you can come and talk to some folks about guitars or just whatever. Once again, thank you all for the subscriptions, and I'll see you next time.